This is the eLearn Podcast. If you're passionate about the future of education, you're in the right place. The expert guests on this show provide insights into the latest strategies, practices, and technologies for creating the most effective learning outcomes. My name's Ladek. I'm your host, and this show is sponsored by OpenLMS. The eLearn Podcast is sponsored by eLearn Magazine, your go-to resource for all things online learning. Click-by-click how-to articles, the latest in EdTech, spotlight on successful outcomes and trends in the marketplace. Subscribe today and never miss a post at elearnmagazine.com. And OpenLMS, a company leveraging open source software to deliver effective, customized, and engaging learning experiences for schools, universities, companies, and governments around the world since 2005. Learn more at openlms.net. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the eLearn Podcast. My name is Ladek. As we heard earlier, the show is sponsored by OpenLMS, which is fantastic. We love their support. But the show is not about us. The show is about my guest here, Peter Kilcoyne. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good there, Ladek. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. For those who don't know, where are you sitting in the world?
I'm in a small town called Bromyard, which is in Herefordshire, which is a rural part of England on the Welsh borders.
Okay, well, I have no idea where that is, but it sounds like a place I want to visit immediately.
It's very pretty.
Fantastic. Well, we're here at the top of May. I hope that means that the weather is wonderful for you. But tell us about, I'd love to give our guests and the ability to introduce themselves and sort of just, set the stage for us about who you are. We can see on the screen here that you're the managing director of Teachermatic, but sort of give us a little bit about your background and, how you showed up in this place.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I've worked in education all my life. So I started back in 1986 as a psychology lecturer at Goldsmiths College, which is part of the University of London. And I also worked at Brixton College, which is a further education college, a bit like a community college in the US. And most of my career has been working in further education, so vocational education, 16 to 18-year-olds. So I was a psychology lecturer for about the first 12 years. And then in the late 90s, I started getting into EdTech. I became what was called an ILT director, which meant that I was responsible for all of the learning technology across the college. One of the things I'm most famous for in the UK is I set up something called the Blended Learning Consortium, which grew to be a partnership of 160 colleges, which is about 2/3 of all the colleges, working together, co-creating blended learning content and sharing it across all the colleges. I did actually retire 4 years ago, very unsuccessfully.
I was just saying, that's why we're on this podcast right now, because you're retired.
Yeah. And for the last couple of years, I've been mainly dividing my time in two ways. I was approached to do a project for the World Bank in Jordan, working with the Ministry of Education to write a blended learning strategy for the whole country. And I've been working in partnership with some local people in Jordan and my colleague Isam Babukan on that. And also, last couple of years, I've been working on this platform, Teachermatic, which is an AI platform designed to make using generative AI much easier for teachers.
Well, then let's start there. Why was using generative AI for teachers? Why was it difficult? Like, give me your, what's, the business problem that you're solving, basically?
Okay, so I first saw ChatGPT a couple of years ago in its sort of earliest stages. And I'm sure, like most people here, it was like something's dropped out of the next century. I could not believe what I was seeing and what this technology could do. It's like, where the hell did this come from? Right, this is incredible. And I could see straight away that for education, it had massive potential for saving teachers time and also for coming up with creative new ideas for teachers. But, and this is a big but, is to get the best out of things like Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., all of these large language models, generative AI, you've got to be good at prompt engineering. And that is not an easy skill. And I knew, having implemented lots of EdTech projects over the last 20 years in colleges, schools, and universities, I knew that the vast majority of teachers would really struggle if you showed them ChatGPT, where basically all you've got is a box to type stuff in. It's like, well, what do I do here?
Right.
You know, you've got a prompt engineer, you do a training session. I've seen this happen again and again. People do training sessions, the teachers go, but they don't use it afterwards.
Oh,
and so I kind of knew that was what I, you know, my experience of working on lots of EdTech projects and the struggles that teachers who are not, the vast majority are not IT whiz kids. They're not great at this sort of stuff. It's got to be easy. I thought that we needed a solution where people didn't have to do prompt engineering. So we built Teachermatic. Teachermatic.com is the URL, which has 70 generators, things that do schemes of work, lesson plans, multiple choice questions, classroom questions, marking rubrics, over 70 different day-to-day tasks that teachers do. And all the teacher has to do is type in a topic, a level, a couple of keywords, click go, and they've got their multiple choice questions. They've got their lesson plan, they've got their scheme of work. And in addition to that, we've built lots of integrations. So you can export, for example, you create multiple choice questions, you can export them into an LMS or into Quizzes or Kahoot or into Microsoft Forms. So we've tried to make it really easy for teachers to engage with AI, and that's what Teachermatic's about.
Fantastic. I mean, sounds like a huge time saver for a huge time saver, right? Like you've created efficiencies for the giant language model that also creates efficiencies. What, you know, when you're approaching a school, or when is it just a no-brainer? Has it been generally? I know that you've had just tremendous growth over the last year and a half or so. Do they look at this and they're like, wow, this is, you know, we've been waiting for this, or, you know, is there any pushback that you're getting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a salesman. I've worked in education all my life. It's a very easy sell. I mean, we built this really as a proof of concept, and we worked with 300 teachers in building this platform just to sort of see how it would work. And then the colleges where these teachers came from were saying, we want to buy this. And I thought, oh, gosh, we might have a business here. And so we launched it last April, and it's now being used in the UK, which is where most of our focus has been, in 2/3 of all of the further education colleges. So, you know, the equivalent would be as if we were in the US, if we'd got across 2/3 of all of the community colleges. It's also been used in about 10 universities and in quite a few schools, the equivalent of your high schools. And we did, a couple of weeks ago, sell to our first US university, which is Queen's and Charlotte. I don't know, it's a small university there, and they've just adopted Teachermatic, and we're delighted about that. And we're currently talking to a couple of states in the US and selling it at state level, hopefully into community colleges across whole states. And we've got a couple of universities in the US also looking at it. So we're hoping to hit the US market, and it's available to anyone in the world. And it also works in all sorts of different languages as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. I want to just say hello to Alejandro, he is chiming in from Colombia. I hope, Alejandro, our conversation in English is acceptable for you, because they wrote their text in Spanish. When I'm thinking about this platform that you've created, where you've got, you know, you said 70 some odd or 70 plus prompts that are kind of built out for teachers, I'm thinking about diversity, and I'm thinking about safety issues. I'm thinking about, you know, the quality of the answers, or the veracity of the answers that teachers are getting when they're using these prompts. Talk me through that process of, you know, if I'm a teacher, I bring my need to them, like you said, like creating a course or creating a multiple choice question or whatever. What do I need going in? And then what do I need to do to verify and make sure that, hey, okay, what, you know, the information I've got is correct?
Okay, so I'll take one example. The most used of all our generators is actually, I was quite surprised, but it is very much across all organisations, the one that gets used the most. It's the multiple choice question generator. And with this one, you know, say you're teaching, say something like cell structure. You know, all you have to do is click on the multiple choice question generator, a little pop-up box appears, you put cell structure in, you say, I want 10 multiple choice questions, you just put 10 in there. There's a complexity slider, which helps you, whether it's school level, college level, university level, helps you adjust the level. You click go, 20 seconds later, you've got 10 multiple choice questions with the answers, and you can then export that into quizzes, Kahoot, and LMS forms, etc. So how do you know those questions are accurate? Now, it's kind of the same issue that if you'd have done that, if you were a very good prompt engineer, you could write prompts to do that with ChatGPT. You have to check. Because with anything using AI, I always say to people, look on it like you've got this fabulous, really helpful teaching assistant who will write you a strong first draft, but you then have to apply your expertise and check their work and make sure that it's accurate, and that it's the right level, etc. Now, we have had some independent research done. There's an organisation in the UK called JISC, which is JISC. Again, Google it. We're very lucky to have JISC, and I think the US would be very lucky if they could have something like it. What JISC do is they support all universities and all colleges in adopting new technology. So they've got 200 or 300 staff. They work nationally and kind of do that sort of research ahead of time of emerging technologies, and then support universities and colleges in adopting it. So it's like an incredibly useful organisation. And we've been very lucky. When JISC heard about Teachermatic, they said, we want to pilot this. And they paid for 8 colleges and 7 universities to have licenses. And they've been evaluating it with us. And in fact, I just got shared, we just had the first blog on the university project. They published research on the college project, and the feedback from the teachers, one of the things that was asked about is how accurate is it? And the accuracy level was very high. Most teachers said, yes, it's very accurate. Occasionally, it's the odd thing, so you absolutely have to check. But that's the same with any AI output.
Wow. Yeah, cool. And then, so take me down the rabbit hole a little further. What about diversity, inclusion, and making sure, again, that whatever, prompt you're putting in or whatever questions that you're asking, that, really you're thinking holistically about that. Obviously, just like what you just said, you need to look at that from the expert's lens, but is there a way to tweak the prompt, or do you have the pieces inside Teachermatic as well where you can ensure or turn up that dial in some way?
Yeah, well, there's a few things that we've got that covers this. I mean, Teachermatic basically creates prompts. So the teacher puts in a few keywords, and then we've got, I'm not going to share our secret sauce, but we've got this incredible coding in the background that creates prompts based on those, which then go to ChatGPT and other large language models and bring the work back. And then Teachermatic has more coding, which then structures that and supports it being outputted. So there's a lot of very clever stuff. And that, for example, we make sure that there will be diversity built in through the prompts that we're putting in.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Secondly, we've got stuff that the teacher can do on the interface. So, for example, when you're creating a lesson plan, you want to plan a 2-hour lesson on a particular topic. One of the options is you can select what learning needs you've got in this class. So there's a drop-down menu, and you can select autism, ADHD, hearing impairment, visual impairment, emotional problems, English as an additional language, as a second language. And so the teacher can select which ones of these you have in your class for a particular lesson, and then it will give you a lesson plan that will give you guidance on, right, if you're teaching, say, computer programming, how to support a student with ADHD, how to support a student with dyslexia, and it gives you some tips on doing that kind of thing. So, this is something that's incredibly important to me, that I've always, been very keen on ensuring that accessibility is central and diversity is central to all that we do. And so we very much focus on that. We also have Bloom's taxonomy built into a number of the generators, so the user can select the different cognitive domains of Bloom's taxonomy. And again, that can help with differentiation and for dealing with different learning needs. And we have a complexity slider. So, for example, say you're doing multiple choice questions again, I'll use that as an example. You can create for the same class 3 sets of questions: easy, middle, and hard. And then you can use that for a differentiated assessment, where you're giving those out to different students based on their ability, their progress, etc. So it's absolutely core to what we do there.
Fantastic. I hope this is not too much of a curveball question, even though I love asking these. One of the big arguments that parents around the world, universities, teachers associations, et cetera, are that, with the advent of generative AI, now students are turning in wholesale papers that have been generated, and assignments, and the ultimate fundamental argument is the kids aren't thinking for themselves anymore, right? They're not actually doing the work. I want to ask you that question on the flip side from the teachers. So, like, you've now created a tool set that it almost sounds like anybody could kind of walk in and be like, "Hey, look, you need a high school teacher. I can do math. Look, boop, 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 boop. You push a couple of buttons and I'm able to create a course. I'm able to talk me through the thinking there. Talk me through the thinking there. But
no more than if you give someone a textbook and say, right, I've got a maths textbook, so I can be a maths teacher. It's absolutely not. What it does is, I'm not sure if it's the same in the US, but in the UK, teaching workloads have incrementally gone up and up and up over the years. When I was last a full-time teacher in a further education college, which was in the late 90s, I'm proper old, I taught 19 hours a week.
19 hours? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Wow.
Is that a lot or a little?
I think that's a little. That's, I guess, actual teaching. If you're in the classroom, 19 hours.
Face-to-face teaching, okay. 19 hours a week.
Okay,
I was working most evenings and weekends doing my prep and marking.
Okay.
Now, today, it's 25 hours a week.
Right.
So the workloads, and I've just seen it go up and up and up. And I'm from an education family. I've got a daughter who's a teacher. My mum was a teacher. I'm very aware of how busy teachers are. And so what AI does in general, and what Teachamatic, I think particularly does by making the access to AI really easy for teachers, is it just does some of the heavy lifting. So it means rather than having to do all the planning, starting off with a blank piece of paper, you can get it to generate you this strong first draft. But you then still have to apply your expertise to that strong first draft, make it your own. But it means it changes a 1-hour task into a 10-minute task.
Right.
And that means that as a teacher, you've got more time to do the important stuff, supporting students.
So let me follow up. And so talk to me about behavior change in, from the educator career, the professional educator perspective. And I'll give an example from my real world, right? Like, I'm everybody who's listened to this podcast for any amount of time, they know about my wife. She runs an UN agency here in Mexico, very busy person. And I've shown her generative AI multiple times, and I've helped her with things, et cetera, et cetera. But she still doesn't use it on a daily basis, even though I know she knows fundamentally. And I know, like, there's been enough times we've demonstrated where it's like, wow, I could have answered that email rather than a half hour, would have taken me 3 minutes, that kind of thing. So in the teacher, from a professional educator, I'm sure, like, there's tons of teachers and professors who they're like, wow, this is really great. But they never quite seem to make the move to put this in their schedule, to put this into their routine as a go-to tool. What have you learned about behavior change in that way, about people building this muscle and becoming comfortable with and making this a part of their persona, who they are?
Yeah, and I've seen that so much that, and particularly when you're using the kind of the ChatGPT thing, because you've got to remember all that kind of prompt engineering. In order for this to work, it's got to become your go-to thing. That, right, I'm planning a new lesson, I'm teaching this topic, I'm going to go to Teachamatic, do my lesson plan, do my learning activities. There's a learning activity tool that will give you group work. There's build some multiple choice questions. We've got a glossary tool that will build a glossary, and just get people used to doing it. And the organizations that have most successfully adopted it are where it just becomes built into the practice. This is your start point. We expect that when you're planning a new course, you will do this planning using the Teachamatic platform. to build your scheme of work, which is your, your plan for the whole year, to build your lesson plans, the plan for each lesson, and then to do things like glossaries, multiple choice questions, classroom questions, learning activities. Use those tools to build the things that you're doing in the class. But at the same, and it's about just getting used to doing that. It becomes part of your routine. And we see where it's been successfully adopted is where it has become part of people's routine. And we did a survey with our users back in November. The average time saved is 3.8 hours a week, and that's what the teachers were telling us. So it saves nearly an hour a day. But the teachers who are really using it well, we're talking about saving 6, 8, and in some cases up to 10 hours a week.
A full workday,
yeah. So it can make a massive difference if this is how you start with your planning. You do your planning using the AI by default, but you just get used to the idea that you get this to build you that first draft, and then you apply yourself to it. And this is whether you're building a course from scratch. And when I'm doing training, I try to sort of separate teachers who are new to teaching and teachers who are experienced at teaching. Because for teachers who are new to teaching, this is just amazing. Because that first year of teaching, I don't know if you remember that when you've got no resources and you are just working 24/7, writing all your plans, your schemes of work, your handouts, your assessments. The second year, it's easier because you've done it all that first time. So having a tool using AI to build all that stuff first time is just amazing for new teachers. But I also like to work with experienced teachers because, and I'm sure it's the same across the world, if you've been teaching the same course year after year after year, you end up on autopilot.
Oh, you phone it in. You absolutely phone it in. Come on, we know that. It's like that's
everyone does it.
It's the
when
classic.
I say this to teachers, they all nod their heads, shuffle, look at their shoes, and go, "Yeah."
It's the classic tenured professor problem, right? Where it's like, I've been teaching, Intro to Psychology 101 literally for 25 years, and I'm still using the same slides I used in 1983.
And they're planning their shopping while they're teaching it. They're doing a script. and so what I say to these people is, use AI to freshen it up. And so, as I said, I used to teach psychology. I was that introduction to psychology professor. And when I look at it in terms of psychology, and I say the learning activities tool, which creates group activities, I'm passionate about how important group activities are, developing 21st century collaborative skills, etc. And this is really coded into the prompts for these. When I did that for stuff I taught year after year, I look at what it does and it's, wow, never thought about doing that. And so this is what I love about AI, is the creativity. It gives you creative ideas. So it's great, not just for the new teachers who have this amazing way of just building all their resources and planning and saving them an awful lot of time in doing that. So they can do what's important, as in teach, and have the energy to teach, because they're not up till midnight every night doing the planning and marking. But for the experienced teachers who have got all their resources, it can help them freshen things up, come up with creative new ideas in very little time.
So I want to go one step further down this rabbit hole. Before we do that, I want to thank, there's a user on YouTube who has the name Cyber and Land Explorer. They're saying that they're a substitute teacher looking to do cybersecurity or AI machine learning, so they can still do substitute teaching. If you're willing, I'd love to, this user, I'd love to hear more about, are you interested in doing AI to bring that into your teaching practice, or is this like a side hustle kind of thing? But just, tell us more about that. But for you, Peter, refreshing a course for somebody who's an experienced teacher, or when we're thinking about, a new educator coming into any system, and they're like, here, this is my first or second year doing this. We know that there's best practices out there around, like, spaced repetition, around group work, around peer review, these kinds of things that, research is showing that these are more effective learning tools. And this is how is that built into your code in the background as well? Like, I guess I'm wondering, how are we breaking the traditional school mold so that we can still use these wonderful institutions and these systems that we have, but we're transforming how the education is delivered, or, how that interaction happens, so that we're also leveling up the game of retention, of skill acquisition, of, cognitive workload, those kinds of things. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I think pedagogy is at the center of everything we do. So when we built Teachermatic, we built it working with teachers. So there was 4 of us in the team, and we didn't say, right, we know what's best. We worked initially with 3 expert teachers, people who did teacher training. We then built a prototype, gave that to 50 teachers, did lots of focus groups, improved it, gave it to 300 teachers. So we built it with teachers, with pedagogy at the centre. And so if you look at the generators, one of the, I think, important pedagogical things that makes a good lesson, asking good questions. And we've got a classroom question generator, which you put in a topic and it will give you some good opening questions to get a class thinking about that topic. Wow. The learning activities generator, again, one that I think is really good. A generator that we've released recently, which I'm really excited about, we're getting some great feedback, is Ask Someone Famous. And what this one does, it uses AI, it creates an AI version persona of any famous person, living or dead, real or fictional. And so as a psychology teacher, I could bring Sigmund Freud into my class, and I can get my students into asking Sigmund Freud questions, and it will instantly give answers. If you're teaching history, you can bring Abraham Lincoln in. You're teaching literature, you can bring Mark Twain in, and you can interact with them. You're teaching sport, you can bring Usain Bolt in, or David Beckham, the great English sportsman, or Serena Williams. So and so we try to build fun into it, because I think fun is a really important part of learning, but we also, good pedagogy. Now, the multiple choice questions, the reason why this has been so successful is it makes formative assessment really easy, because it's not easy to do formative assessment every week. If you want to write 10 multiple choice questions, put them on an LMS, that's about an hour and a half's work. And you can't do that for every single lesson. But by using the AI tool Teachermatic, literally, you can have 10 multiple choice questions on Moodle or OpenLMS or Canvas or Blackboard or on Microsoft Forms in less than 2 minutes. So you can do it for every single lesson. And that means as a teacher, and again, good teaching and learning practice, you in your gradebook, week by week, you can see the scores of all your students on an objective formative assessment. And so you can see if one student's doing well and suddenly has a drop-off, something's going on at home, something's going on in their life, that student needs some extra support. You can see all the students got this question wrong. I need to teach that particular thing better. So that good pedagogy, and if you've got people in your organization who can do things like Power BI and all of the kind of analytics that you can do at the back end with that, you can do some amazing sort of dashboards with all of that data that you're able to generate by having much more regular formative assessment.
Fantastic. We can refer people to our webinar that we had in February this year with our friends over at IntelliBoard as well, about using, how do we use data from our teaching, from our ed tech to enhance these, enhance learning experience.
It's source of information, and it's so underused. Every college, school, university has so much data, and using AI and the automated assessments, you just get shed loads more data, and it's not hard. There are tools which make it quite easy, if you've got people with the right skill sets, to really use that data and to understand what's happening with teaching and learning, and to look at trends, to look at diversity. Are we getting differential success rates for different groups of students? If so, why? We do in the UK, we do something called post-code analysis. Now, you might zip code analysis, I guess, would be the equivalent. Sure. So, are students from certain parts of the catchment area doing better than others? That might tell us something important. Are there gender differences? Are there age differences? And when you've got all that big data, you can really do some strong analytics and look at what's going on in your class, department, or organization.
One more sort of attempt at the or to continue this conversation where we're at right now is I'm putting myself in the body of, a sophomore, a 10th grade, chemistry teacher who's been, they've just been in the grind for the last 10 years. They do their classes, they've got the homework, they've got a grade, they've got the tests, there's, at least in the United States, there's certain standards they need to teach to, and those, like, there's a grind, like, you get into that. You come with this tool that's like, look, I want you to do this differently to save you time and stuff like that. this always sounds weird when I say it, but we know that there's a fear that there's this. So wait, you're going to give me 10 hours back? You're giving me a day back? What do I do with that day? Right? Like that feel. Talk to me about the psychology around that. And have you been able to think about that, or have you had any kind of those
We've
conversations?
researched it. We've actually researched it, because that was one of the big questions I had. And what I kind of wanted to hear in some ways was, I put my feet up.
Yeah, of course. Like, why? Yeah, we're going to take away some of the
You're
work. So, like,
working
okay,
a
relax and
70-hour
regenerate.
week.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Have a rest. Enjoy your evenings. Put Netflix on. Go out for a nice walk at the weekends. But what our survey told us was that's not what happened. And this was just such a tribute to the professionalism of teachers. That, the teachers who were saving 4 or 5 hours a week, when we asked them, what do you do with that time? We had a kind of multiple choice or multiple select question. And it was generally more time supporting students, more time working one-to-one, more time to do my grading. So I'm spending more time on my grading. So I was almost disappointed, because the idea behind it was, you people are so busy, and you need just for your own sanity.
Exactly. You need to put some. Let's put some. It's like forced balance, right? It's like forced.
Yeah.
And we we like to work. I have preferred to start using the term, rather than work-life balance, like work-life harmony, right? So I really like that
Right.
distinction, So it's like, hey, if you're passionate about it and it gives you energy to continue to do this, then great. Yeah, I'll power to you. But I'm thinking more of the teachers who are they're like, look, I just need that break, but they feel like they can't take it. And now you've given them that space. It's like really like, finding a way for the department or the institution or the school, whatever it is, to like give them that permission and say, look, we're giving you this tool so that you can actually regenerate, so you can actually take that break. I think that's a really powerful thing to come from leadership, right?
Let me give you an example. And this was a case we did something that we do every term, or sorry, we are semester.
It's all good. We're a global podcast here, Peter. We're a global podcast.
All right. Oh, great. So we have 3 terms a year, and each term we have a user group meeting for Teachamatic, and where I get people from our users talking about how they're using it. And our last one, we had the sports department from City of Westminster College in London. And this serves an area of London that has some really major social challenges. Around we don't have the guns issue that you get in the US, but we have knife crime, and a lot of typically in that college there's been a student stabbed each year for the last few years, sadly. A lot of problems with drugs and with the students getting involved in the wrong sort of gangs. And these students, maybe come from very challenging home backgrounds, and they have real issues around retention, around success. And the sports department really went for Teachamatic in a big way, and did all of. They said, right, we're going to do all of our planning, creating our resources, creating our assessments using this. And when I sort of discussed with them, they were talking about saving 8 hours to 10 hours per week through doing this. And what they did with that was they spent much more time doing one-to-one stuff with their individual learners. So they identified those learners that were particularly at risk, those learners who were struggling on an assignment, and they had time, the time that they would have been spending in the staff room sitting on a computer preparing resources. They used that time to work with those individual students on a one-to-one basis, and it improved their retention, and it's improved their success rates, and it's they talked about it making a huge difference to the way the whole departments work. And that's, to me, a really joyful kind of story, where this kind of technology really makes a difference to young people's lives via their teachers being able to spend more time, and these teachers really care about the young people they're working with, and you can see that in when you're talking to them, and the ability that they were so frustrated in the past that they just didn't have that time to do that one-to-one, to do those interventions. And the use of AI has freed that time up to do that.
Fantastic. Final question for you. Is there a Trainer-matic? So, we've talked about traditional education system everywhere from essentially primary, through the college system. then people cross into professions, right? And there's corporations and whatnot. And so does this
It
work
works.
in the corporate setting? Or is there any tweaks or anything like that happens, or is there a rebrand, or is there another interface that you need to build, or is it just this
No,
works well?
it is used in work-based learning and in professional learning. We do have some users from that background. I mean, over time, we may well build a more corporate version. We may fork an HE version and a school version. At the moment, it's one platform, but there's links down the left-hand side where you can select school, college, university, and it kind of gives you a different view and the generators that are best for that particular area. And yeah, we certainly have plans where we might produce different versions over time.
Okay, thanks. Peter Kilcoyne, thank you so much for taking time into your evening in the Welsh Highlands. No, I'm sorry. No, in the rural Highlands of over there. It's
The
been a
English
wonderful
Welsh borders, yes.
the Welsh border. Yeah, no. It's been a wonderful conversation. Really, really exciting stuff. I can't wait to see what happens over the next 12 months, because the acceleration of this is only going to get faster. We already have up on the screen there, if somebody would like to go test Teachermatic, go to teachermatic.com/my account and then use that username and password to get a demo of it. And
Absolutely. That'll
fantastic.
work. I think that one will work for the next week. So
Okay.
it's fully functional. If lots of people use it, it's got 1,000 goes on it a day. So if lots of people use it, you might get it's
A
been
little
used up
slowdown.
today, come back tomorrow.
Sure.
But actually it's got 4,000 goes on it, I think, that one. So it should be okay. But if you get it's been used up, just come back tomorrow. It means that lots of people are using it.
Great. Fantastic. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Right. Cheers, Annette. Take care. Bye bye.